Howdy everybody, Johnny Super here, going to be doing a review of the Marauder in semi-automatic by Benjamin. So we'll go through the features to start off with. It is a semi-automatic. This one's 22 caliber. Comes with a walnut stock with an adjustable cheek riser. It does not have an adjustable butt pad on it. Nice walnut stock, although Crossman totally cheaped out. When they sawed this apart here, they left this rough and they left this rough instead of just running this whole stock over a belt sander for, I don't know, 2 seconds. They could have improved the quality of the way that this thing looks dramatically with very little added cost when it came to manufacturing. I understand they're looking to do things as cheap as possible, but I mean, that's just scratchy right there. You can see the teeth marks from where the saw cut it. And speaking of Crossman quality control, the receiver bolts were loose, out of the box, loose. And on my first magazine, shooting it down here over the chronograph, just trying to figure out what it was doing, trigger guard screw fell out. Didn't fall out because it wasn't screwed in all the way. It fell out because it was stripped. Whoever put it in there recognized that it was just spinning. They didn't care. They put it in the box and they shipped it. So I ended up having to take a bigger screw and put a bigger screw in there just to get it to bite and do its job and hold the trigger guard in place. Quality control on this thing. Second thing that went wrong with it was the charging handle. So this doesn't have a bolt. It's got a charging handle like an AR. So you pull this back and put the magazine in and then let it go forward. And then you push this little button right here, which actually feeds the first pellet into the chamber and gets it seated nicely. If you put this on a chronograph and you don't push this little button, that first shot velocity is going to be much different than the rest of them. The other 9 will be different. So if you want consistency, you push this little button here that seats the first pellet. Then you just go ahead, pull the trigger 9 more times as fast as you can pull the trigger, and it shoots. This charging handle, after about 1,000, 1,500 rounds, started sticking. And I mean sticking bad. I had to put the butt of the rifle up against my chest, grab the handle with both fingers, and then yank it back to break it, to get it to break free. So I took the receiver off, took a look at the charging handle, all gold, all gold. The metal, the anodizing was gone, and the front of the receiver here and the charging handle here were beat to hell. I don't know if they were out of spec, if it was a bad design. I don't know what the hell happened, but sticking like there was no tomorrow. So I used a Dremel, polished them up a little bit, took the rough areas off, put it back in, and now it feeds the way that it should. Another problem was the trigger. After another 1,500 rounds, the trigger started to stick to the point where it wouldn't come forward anymore. It didn't have enough spring to push it forward anymore. I had to have to put my finger behind the trigger and push it forward in order to get it to click so that I could take the next shot. Took it apart. Second time now, brand new gun, taking it apart for the second time, take the trigger plate off. I did take a picture, because you always want to take a picture when you take something apart. That way, if you, was that in front of the post, behind the post, on the post, was that spring here, was that screw here? You take a picture, you could always go back and refer to it. So I took a picture, and it turns out that the metal in there is all the same kind of metal. You use 2 very similar kinds of metal, they're going to gall each other. They're going to wear away at each other. So I polished them up a little bit, stoned them up a little bit, put a little lube on there. Now I've got the thing resetting to the where it comes back the way that it's supposed to. This thing runs on 3,000 PSI in the tube, and it has a Foster quick disconnect, just like every Marauder does up here. Okay, love that. Foster is just the way to go. Fill probes suck. Fill probes suck because that's just 2 more O-rings to fail on you at some point, and it's unnecessary. I did put a cheap Champion bipod I got from Walmart, $44. It mounts to the sling stud. You just got 2 little teeth that grab the sling stud, and then it snugs itself up with this little screw right here. It's rock solid. It's cant adjustable, so if you're on an uneven surface, you can even the gun out, and it's a perfect mate for an inexpensive bipod for this rifle, and it performs beautifully. This comes with 1 10-round magazine, and it's your typical Crossman Marauder 10-round magazine. This one Unlike the other 22, which has an oblong hole to put the pellets through, this one's got a round hole. So that's how you know the magazine's specific for the semi-automatic. It's got a purely round hole to feed the pellets through, whereas the regular 22 caliber Marauder bolt action has got an oval hole to put the pellets through. That's how you can differentiate the two of them. Good looking walnut stock, balances nicely, Picatinny rail on here. I get 60, count them, 60 full power shots out of this puppy, and it's thumping a 14.3 grain Crossman cheapo pellet, hollow point or the Ultra Magnum domed, whichever one of the two. They both shoot exactly the same. This is what this gun likes best, and it shoots them at 830 feet a second. Then I get 60 full power shots. Why? Because it's regulated. Very, very consistent, regulated. Somewhere in there they put in a regulator, and the puppy works. So you get your 60 full power shots out of it. Accuracy wise, okay, at 25 yards, you could put all 10 rounds into about the diameter of a nickel, a US nickel. And at 50 yards, you're looking at about a 50-cent piece, maybe a golf ball. So from a plinking standpoint, from a light varmint standpoint, if I was going to shoot a squirrel with this thing, I would shoot the squirrel in the body. I wouldn't aim for its head because, quite frankly, anything past 25 yards, it just doesn't have the accuracy to do eye shots like some of my other bolt-action Marauders have. But from a fun factor, this thing can't be beat, okay? Absolutely fun. If you've got like a Ruger 1022 or an M&P 1522 or any semi-automatic 22 long rifle, this thing scratches the same itch, except you could go to Walmart and get a tin of 14.3 grain pellets for $9, $8. You're not going to get 22 ammunition for that anymore. So, and that's 500. So this thing will scratch the same itch that those other semi-automatic 22 long rifles do, but it just does it much cheaper. It is relatively reliable now that I've worked on the galling of the T-handle and I worked on the trigger. Yeah, it's better now. The screw on the trigger guard falling out still got me angry. The loose receiver bolts out of the box got me angry. Crossman could have done a much better job with that. It does have a manometer built in on the bottom. It does not have a regulator manometer, just a pressure gauge on the bottom. For the money, I'm happy that I bought it, but if you're not a tinkerer, you're not somebody who's got Allen wrenches and tools and Dremels and polishing stones, this might not be. Now, Crossman might have worked it out. I bought this thing maybe 6 months after it came out, 8 months after it came out. It could have been one of the first generations where they were working out some bugs. I don't know, okay? But I do know that it needed a lot of work right out of the box, so much work out of the box that, I was a little stressed out over it. And if you're not a tinkering kind of person, this might not be the gun for you. This is not a field target competitive gun. It is not going to thread pellet through a 3/8 inch hole if you needed to. But if you're looking to just pop some soda cans off of a fence post out back at 25 yards, if you want to ask a squirrel to leave your wife's garden at 830 feet a second, this is more than adequate to do it. But like I suggested before, I would just take heart and lung shots with this thing. I wouldn't aim for the head because it's not as accurate as a bolt action. I don't necessarily know if I could expect it to be as accurate as a bolt action. But for what it is and where it's at right now that I did all that work inside there, it's reliable. It cycles the way that it's supposed to. It's not terribly loud. It gets a good shot count of 60 shots per fill. It's balanced relatively well. It's quiet enough and reliable enough. So I hope that helps somebody who is on the fence about getting this thing. If you're good with tools, go for it. If you're not, then you might want to stay away from this and go with something a little bit more reliable from a semi-automatic standpoint. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helped you make a decision as to whether or not you wanted to go into this.